Hey, I'm Andy and welcome to the Globe Parents Podcast. We're here to help you. Wherever you are around the world, we want to equip you on your journey in parenting. We're going to be joined by all different guests, and I'm in the Gold Coast office, so all sorts of things are going on in the background, but the main aim is to empower and equip you. So thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Globe Parents Podcast. I'm Andy, and today we have got Warren and Bernice Eriksson. It's so good to have you guys here and have a conversation just about building homes that has Christ at the center, and you've got kids at all different ages, and so we're going to chat through that, how it all works at different ages, which is fun. But to start with, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves? So who is Warren and Bernice? That's a good question.
Oh, that is a good question.
That's a great question.
Bernice, you want to take that
Yes,
away?
well, I am Bernice. I have been married to Warren for just over 20 years. I'm an active mom of 5 kids. I am a pediatric physio and life coach. We have lived on 3 different continents, and what else? Yeah, I love the journey of life and
Yeah, absolutely.
3 continents.
3 continents.
That's awesome. So South Africa,
Yes,
first.
America.
What was the second? America, and now here.
And I,
Okay, we're going to digress. It happens every time. I've got my questions, but I want to. What's your favourite bit of each of them?
favourite bit.
Yeah. South Africa's home. Is that
South
always
Africa's
home?
home, yeah, so that's family.
Family.
America was different.
Not the food.
No, not the food.
No. I reckon maybe the US was maybe the community we found ourselves
Yeah,
in.
like
Like
community,
school
yeah.
community was probably a highlight.
Yeah.
Like
School was
just
good.
I think because we're in Texas,
Yes. The bigness.
the bigness, but
Yeah.
also like the respect for family.
Yeah, right.
And even internally within like the family unit, like the kids were always like, even to their parents was like, yes sir, yes ma'am.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the respect.
Like the respect for
Yeah.
elders,
Yes.
the old elders or whatever in their family, or it was just so strong. Like, and I think we really love that because
Yeah.
you don't get that much here.
No.
Like,
No, that's certainly not here in Australia. I've not been called sir at home by my
no,
kids.
I don't. We don't
But
get. Well, we don't.
You don't demand it?
Yeah, no.
No, but I know what you're saying. There is that healthy respect. You walk into a fast food place or a shopping centre in America, and the young guys, it's sir,
Yeah.
you know, ma'am,
Yeah.
and there is that healthy respect in society.
Yeah.
I do love that as well. That's brilliant.
All
What's your favourite part
celebration.
here?
Here,
Celebrations.
yeah, that's for America.
Oh, the celebrations.
It's
yes.
all about celebration,
Yes.
which is cool.
Yeah. Thanksgiving's cool. Just that. The elements of that. I love it.
Pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
That's
neat
great.
experience. It was a neat
And then
experience.
Australia, I think it's about roots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's life.
Well,
I think this is just who we
This
are.
is life now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, you've always had that connection with Australia. Because
My
Bernice's
dad's
dad's Australian.
Right.
But-
Okay.
Yeah, but never really knew your roots here. Growing up in South Africa, like single parent kind of thing. So I think there's been a heritage here for us that you never really realised. Now
No.
we've kind of almost stepped into it like unknowingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty special.
Australia's a love. I think we just love it.
Yeah. Well, it leads me into that next question you mentioned, just some of you growing up. What was your upbringing? What did that look like for both of you? Was it a Christian family? Was it a non-Christian? And how really did you find faith along your journey?
Well, for me, it was a non-Christian family. So
Yep.
my mom was a single parent.
Yeah.
And then it was my brother, myself. I was the oldest. And so I think faith for me, when I was thinking of that growing up, it was really just the faith that my mom had in us and the faith in her ability. We never went to church. We never had Christian friends.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a faith in the possibility to do whatever you could
Yep.
and wanted to.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, kind of drawing on your ability to survive.
Yeah.
Do you know, it was the
Yeah.
faith that we would get through each month.
Yeah.
It was the faith that my mom was able to be both parents,
Wow.
be where she needed to be, and that it was sacrificial. I think it was,
Oh, it was a grind for her, wasn't it?
yeah.
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 But I mean, she, yeah, she did it. She did so many things. So then when I found my faith, then it was, I suppose, believing in a God that was faithful and had almost sacrificed everything for me, that belief was stronger because of observing my mum.
I was going to say that would be easy to identify with a sacrificial mum, to see a God that loves you. That parental experience is like, oh wow, I get that.
Yeah.
That isn't what a parent does.
Yeah.
Loves me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What age were you when you found Christ?
15,
Well, yeah,
16.
yeah.
I might have been drawn to church because of Warren.
Is that what it was? Hey, hey, there it is. So were you always in church, Warren?
I was. I grew up in in a great family. Probably my mom was a believer for longer than my dad. My dad actually found Christ in the workplace.
Yeah, right.
It was quite an amazing story, but but my mom always led the spiritual charge in the family. So she always would encourage us. Let's go to church, but it was always. It was a pretty non-denominational church, not much Holy Spirit.
Right.
For me, it was always there. I knew there was something that was untapped, or to be untapped or to be unlocked. And it was only when I'd moved schools from in around year 10, I guess it was, around equivalent, and I landed in this co-ed school, from an all-boys school to a co-ed school, which is a good move.
Yeah, that's a great move.
Yeah. And I saw that Bernice was she was the track star, the athlete, she was totally out of my league. She was that girl. I was no ways. So we got together. It was a bit of a setup, the way we got together anyway. But we found this group of friends, and suddenly it was we then started going to Rhema Church, which was Ray McCauley, and the first time I got there, I was like, man, what is going on here? It was just my eyes were open, to things of the Spirit and Holy Spirit, and so I think that we kind of went on that journey together.
Yeah, right.
So even though, Bern said, I've probably would say that I've been a Christian longer than her, but we really started our the fullness of it together, which is pretty special.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I thought the story actually for a minute there was going to go that you prayed, and that's the goodness of God. That's where I thought it was going. That it was and you're going to teach the young people that you can pray for your wife. But anyway, it's
just get two friends to set you up.
That'll
it's
work.
a setup, That's how I love the speed dating thing,
Yes, the young adults. Yeah.
Why not? You get two people going, okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Could be work.
I love that you have gone on that journey together at that time, because then as you obviously have then got married and you've had children, as we do in marriages and in family life, you then take the best bits of your upbringing in your families and you merge them together to try and create the culture or the home environment that you want to build. You leave out the bits that you thought aren't good until you get older and you realise you're more like your parents than you care to admit. But the truth is, you do integrate bits of family in. What have been some real significant or intentional aspects that you've brought into your home? Both, believing for the best, as you said, your mum really was hey, you can do anything. But also from a faith perspective of okay, this is who God is in the center of our home. What are some of those elements that you've integrated in as your children have started to grow up?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we did when we came in, as you said, because we'd come from such different but similar walks. And so I remember just before we got married, we did pre-marriage counselling and spoke about expectations or things in the family of what we might bring coming from where we've come. And so thinking about that realistically now that we have our kids and implementing some of those things, it has changed a lot. But I think some of the things that we've always done is just open communication.
Right.
We'll always gather. It's kind of an open, we've got an open door policy where nothing's unspoken or not talked about. So we will get together most evenings. Our kids will be involved in meal preparation and just sitting at the table and having a meal and conversation. Yeah. And then just the importance of each one having a voice, being heard, In a bigger family, obviously, sometimes you have louder ones.
Yeah.
And so I think just allowing everyone to have a voice, to hearing what they're saying, and just also believing in each other.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you might not agree with it,
Yeah.
but it's worth being heard.
Yes.
And everyone's got something to add. So I think those kind of things where we set boundaries, we have set, you know, standards of through the week, what we might be involved in, when we're going to come together, and then communicating through it all.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And I think something that, I think when we first kind of started in our parenting journey, and like especially with the first kid, you like, that becomes the centre of the family, and all the focus and attention is like drawn to this person. And what we realised early on, like if we're not good, forget about like that little person's not good.
Yes.
Like this is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like if our marriage isn't good, well, forget it. Like family's going to be so. And one thing, like it was actually like a really intentional thing that we did, but Corbin, our first child, would always like be between us, like physically between us.
Yep.
So, and he started getting like really insecure and was like, "What's going on?" And anyway, we realised that he probably never sees us together. So he'd come through at night, come into our bed. It's like, "What's going on?" Like, you got your own bed, like. Walk down the street between us, sit between us, and then it was this really. Then we started to think, hang on, he's actually positioned himself right in the middle, and it's like, no, we're in the middle.
Wow.
And he is really an extension of the family. So I think as our family's grown, they've all gone, hey, we know our place.
Yes.
Like. You're an extension of this family, and what we've also then done is gone, okay, whatever we do together.
Yeah.
You know, so we travel as a pack.
Yeah.
You know, so and there's power in that. Like, so whether we've gone overseas together or gone on an adventure together, we've done it together, and I think building those moments, and then life happens out of that. You know, like.
Yeah, and from that, hey.
And then I think proximity, you know, like the closer your kids are to you, and they just observe stuff. Yeah. They see us
modelling.
Yeah, modelling, reading our word, journaling, whatever the case is, and then they replicate that. So I see that, especially for Bernie, like Bern is a great, she'll journal a lot, but then I see that in Corbin.
Yes.
Like he's a great journaler.
Yes.
Like, and then I see, so you start to see that kind of rub off.
Yeah.
And I think also acknowledging that faith looks so different from my upbringing, Warren's upbringing, but then in each one of our kids, and then how we come together and, you know, I suppose model it, and then allowing each one of the kids to find how they live that walk of faith.
I'd love to narrow in on that a little bit further, because I'm personally entering into this space, 14-year-old, 12-year-old, I've got two going into youth. And I walked into youth the other day, I was dropping the kids off, and you see them run off and they're high-fiving the youth leaders, and you're starting to realise, oh, okay, there's other significant voices starting to take place in these. How do you let go of that control aspect of, because you hope you've put enough in that they're gonna end up to take on a lot of these things that you've instilled or taught them along but there's other voices coming along. And now I'm thrilled about it, but I have to be honest, there's that element of, oh, okay, I'm being replaced a little bit here. How do you do that? Really, for the parents that are watching, those that are listening, how do you really release them into having their own faith journey? That would probably be the real big question here.
I would say that like everything starts at home.
Yep.
So whether they like embarking on their journey or they going to school, as long as they know that like they can come back to a safe place.
Yeah, that's good.
And unpack.
Yes.
And go like, I had this experience, or and then it's for us as parents to go, okay, well, how'd that make you feel? Like, what did you learn from that? Like, so instead of doing all the thinking for them, it's really like asking them the right questions.
Yes.
So that actually own that decision-making process.
Yeah.
You know, when they're encountering situations, whatever it might be, they almost have a confidence or surety to go, like, even if I'm uncomfortable, I know where I can go.
Yes.
Or I know I can call.
Yeah.
You know, or I've been here before.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and this is what I did. This really helped last time.
Yeah. I love that. I read a recent study from One Hope that said that the number one place children and teens still want to get their information from or go back to is their parents.
Yeah.
Totally.
But in the same study, it says 1 in 3 parents feel confident enough to give information.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes parents feel insecure to not to step into that position. Oh no, they're okay, we don't want to.
Yeah.
But I'm hearing, the great advice here is build that safe place at home.
Yeah.
Step into that, and you may not have all the right, but you're safe.
Yeah.
And we'll go on the journey together to work this out.
Yeah.
And they're coming back to you. Is that really what
Totally.
you?
And I think also for parents to be secure in who they are,
Yep.
and knowing that they've instilled things in their kids that their kids will carry out and implement in life as they go. So I can just, you know your kids.
Yeah.
And when you release them and let them go, it's then just trusting what's in them,
Yes.
who's guiding them.
Yeah.
And obviously from our point of view, just having that faith lifestyle to say, you've got this.
Yeah.
And yes, you're going to mess up, but that's okay. So allowing them to come back without being judgmental, but just to, openly express where they're at, come alongside, support it, not necessarily interfere, but, like Will said, just say, well, what do you think about that? Jesus always asked questions and he empowered people. So I think as the kids get older, those boundaries expand, and then you're trusting them within those boundaries and allowing them to make decisions, and then comforting them when they don't get it right and they come back and they're like, oh, I tried this or I listened to this advice. And so, we have a lot of great people around us that will have all the good intentions to feed into our kids' lives, and sometimes it lands and doesn't necessarily sit as well, but the kids will come home, and especially my older two, and talk about it, and we'll say, well, what do you think about it? What are you going to do? What does it mean? And then they'll implement certain parts of that, and it works out a certain way, and even that then is feedback, and you say, well, you gave it a go. We're not intimidated because we're secure in who we are.
It's such a good thought. I think we think through our lives that obviously we've learned from all our mistakes, but then with the kids, we want to then make sure they don't make mistakes. But it's rather, I love what you said, create that wider boundaries. They're still within the boundaries, but let's coach them through that space and talk through. Yeah, that's really brilliant.
I always, I don't know who said it, but someone said that he would wake up every morning and pray, please let my kids fail today. And even for me, I'm like, they're going to fail.
Right.
But if they fail forward and you're there to support them and say, oh, come on, get up. What could we do differently? That's always my approach. And that's when I know with my mom, things were hard, but she always like, okay, we can do this. What are we going to do different? Let's get up. And we're just going to keep moving forward. So there's that resilience of just, we can do this. Let's go. We're going to do it differently. And we're going to come alongside. So I think for my kids, and for any kids, I don't know, it's just, there's no failure within Christ. Do you know what I mean? And even for our kids, we, to have that grace that you're going to mess up, but what are we learning from it and how are we growing because of it? I don't know, what an opportunity to grow yourself and grow them.
Totally. No, that's brilliant.
And then, just to add to that thought, I think, like with a bigger family, like having those conversations, like in the wider family unit, actually, it's great because it's actually, they're all learning something.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not just exclusive to that particular child. It's like Luke is like picking up all these things. So I think it builds a really healthy culture within the. I think just to add, I think you touched on something there is about the firsts. Like even around the whole sexual sex, and we were very intentional, like early on, to go. Our kids need to hear from us first, because they're gonna get misinformation elsewhere, or even like going to music, their first music concert. Like we got to take them to their first, and go, okay, this is how you can do it. So it's kind of modeling all of that for them, so they've got like a bit of a template rather than them trying to figure out I've heard this and heard that. You
It's
know what
funny.
I mean?
No, it's great. In a number of the other podcasts that we've recorded, it's that conversation where many of the guests were talking about where they didn't have open conversations growing up.
Yeah.
And the thing that they've changed is that they're having more open conversations. I think that it's probably a society shift in general,
sure.
but having a wider conversation to ask, why do we do this? Why do we come to church?
Yeah.
Was the question. Why do we read it? And so we answer the why along the journey, and I love that, taking them along to the first concert, or taking, I love you go on a holiday, we're all going and we're going to experience this together. And we had a conversation recently. We'd planned a trip, and flight prices are through the roof at the moment, as we probably all know internationally, for the time we had planned. And I sat down. Yes, as a father, I had promised we were going to do this, but this is the information. It's thousands and thousands, but we could go here. And all the kids are like, no, let's just go then. And so including them in the conversation, but giving them the why we're doing it, not just we're not.
Yes.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
That's just dealing with disappointment, but taking them on the journey. So I love that.
And the real life things, I think that's what we've done as they've got older, more so, and obviously then the younger ones get included a lot earlier, is just have real life discussions, whether we're doing finances, do you know? And I had asked one of my kids yesterday, and I said, what do you think makes us different, that we kind of might stand out in terms of our way of life and doing things? And he thought about it for a while, and then he said, you know what, Mum, when we've got financial issues, even him using that word, he says, we pray about it and we believe that God's going to come through for us. And, even knowing that we don't intentionally do it, but subconsciously we're having a conversation, we will sometimes argue, not that we do it a lot, but we argue in front of the kids, but we will also make up in front of the kids in terms of having a conclusion or an outcome for that argument. Because the reality is you're going to have confrontations, but how are you doing it? So we will do it with the kids.
I love that. Even this week, I went back to one of my children and I said, hey, I spoke to you too harsh. I just want to apologise. And he was, oh, no. But even in that is intentional in modelling. Be quick to apologise, see your faults and do whatever. It was just, you're tired, you snapped, you spoke, it was harsh. And it was like, hey, I was wrong. And so I'm hoping that when he's an adult, he'll be, hey, sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
I spoke, which is good, that's brilliant. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I've got 3 really quick questions. They're not on the list, so it's just off the cuff. You've got to answer these. It's a bit of fun.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
If you could only eat one thing for the rest of your life.
Avocado.
That was as quick as Christy. Christy was like hash browns, not as healthy, but it was hash brown. Warren, what would you eat?
Ribs for sure.
Ribs, Pork ribs?
Yes, pork ribs,
Yes. Oh, sure. So good. Now I'm thinking of Mike's Kitchen. I'm lost. Okay, number 2. Now that the world has opened, international travel's back, where do you want to go? What's the next?
Israel.
Israel. Okay.
Yeah, for me, probably Italy.
Italy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
I love Italy.
Last question is a little bit deeper. We go from avocado and Israel. But somewhere along your life, have you picked up, it could be a scripture, it could be a quote, it could be a saying, but just something that is in your mind that you're like, it shapes how you think a little bit. Just that one line nugget that we can give to the parents. Have you got anything? What's the one liner?
I think for me, everything starts with a thought.
Everything starts with a thought. I like that. That's good. No, it is.
And it's deep.
Because your thoughts, you start to live out the way, way a man thinks in his heart, so is he. He starts to live out that. Yeah, that's good.
And I will always share it with the kids in terms of what's the thought behind that.
Yes.
Because it's come from an evidence or an experience.
Yes.
And we can always go back to that. And obviously the word, it says we can rewire it.
Yes.
So we can think a new thought.
Yep.
And just based on that, we can change the outcome or the circumstances.
I love that. That's brilliant.
That's cool.
I know. Now the pressure's on that we go, oh, Warren. You're like, just do it.
That's a good one. It's along those lines. I think for me it's like life is an adventure. Like there's and it's I love with that attitude you can actually flip most situations. To go, where's the adventure in this? And so
I love that about both of you. You're always on an adventure.
Yeah.
It's always fun. You take the kids,
Yeah.
and it's great. So thanks for joining us. To all the parents that are watching and listening, thank you for joining us this month as we've just tried to help resource you further, have these conversations, bring real life into your home, and to get you to think. So we hope you'll join us next month for the Glow Parents Podcast.